Hello, 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 hello. It's Herdyne Mercier, your chief grief crusader and host of Redefining Grief podcast with yours truly. We out here in these streets redefining grief. I said, hey Ray Ray, please let me know where you're from. Let me know where you're from. Come on in, come on in. Barbara's gonna be joining us. Hello, please type the city where you're from, even if you know me or not. I want to see it on the screen. Hey, Gab. Hey. Let us know. Hey, here she is. Can you request? Yes. Yes. Got this. You a natural. Hey, Barbara. Tampa is in the house. Tampa. Oh, California.
I'm here.
You're here. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Hey, did I really say yes though?
Yeah, okay, let's keep it 100 with the people. Let's keep it, hey, honey bun. Let's keep it, what city you're from, honey? Let's keep it 100 with the people. You did.
Yeah, let's
I
tell them.
put in a call because you're my P2P sister.
Yes.
The platform led by Patrice Washington. And I put in a call and you didn't say yes at first. Let's tell that story, Barbara.
Okay. So I saw this. I get the alerts constantly because if I don't keep up as they're coming in, I'll get overwhelmed and I'll never catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So I see this post by Herdyne, and she's putting a call out for someone to come and talk about grief on her Instagram live.
Uh-huh.
And so I see it, and my first instinct was to, let me go ahead and just put myself out there and do this. Mm-hmm. And then I hesitate, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna let somebody else take this. And then shortly after, Shalou took it. So I was like, yeah, go Shalou, take one for the team. Uh-huh. And so then I thought, let me sound good and just say, hey, if you ever need somebody in the future as a backup, uh-huh, you can call me. 2 seconds later, all right, how's Monday? I knew.
see, God is an on-time God, Barbara.
I know.
And so he knows you were ready. He knows we stay ready, and sometimes we need to be pushed.
Yeah.
Push.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going on.
You're right, baby. I should have made the bed today, and I did it, and it put all my business out with my laundry, everything. So, Barbara, introduce yourself. Besides being my P2P sister, who are you?
Who am I? I, first and foremost, and most proud to call myself a daughter of God. That's the proudest title I wear, I think. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, a friend, a teacher, a learner. And now I have my small business, which this is the page that I'm on right now, Hope and Grace Gifting. And you have me thinking more and more about grief and all the different, ways that we grieve and situations that cause us to grieve. And I was thinking that my small business was actually born, I believe, out of a time of grieving, because I had prayed on it for a whole year, and it finally came to me. And I can think back now and say, I thought it was led up to this point from moving away from all my family and friends, uh-huh, shortly after my dad passed, and just feeling stirred in a way to do something. And then this was born out of it. So
yes.
Here we are.
Let me welcome some people in. Hey, Twin. Hey, Gwen. I hope I didn't miss anybody else. Even if I know where you're from, can you please type in your city, what state you're representing, what country you're representing? Barbara's from California. And what I want to say, Barbara, is last night I shared how Wifidence was born. And Wifidence came out of a grief experience. And one of my favorite scriptures is in the book of Ecclesiastes that says, it is better to go to the house of mourning than it is to go to the house of feasting. because death is the destiny of everyone, and the living should take it to heart.
Mhm.
And I realized all my life, I have been studying this thing, the death of something. There is beauty that happens when we have a death experience. Woo! Quote, quote. There is beauty that happens when we have a death experience. It could be around a career, it could be around a prayer, it could be around actually losing someone, which is hard to kind of swallow and take in. And hearing you say that your business came out of a death experience, came out of some type of emotional death experience, not an actual physical death, but the death of something or someone brought forth this light. And this light is the light of your business. Tell us, what is your business and what does that light represent?
Okay, and I see my best friend right here, Adriana. She's saying, "Preach it." She's been with me since we were 12, and we're in our 40s now. Yeah, we've been through it all together, and we've had, between the both of us, the grief is just crazy. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
I said, your business in your life, the business in the light. Okay, in the life that brought fruit, because you said you've been thinking about grief, and you realized that your business came out of a death experience, brought forth the light of your business, the life of your business. And what is that?
Yeah, there's so much intertwined in how all of this happened. But like I said, a few years ago, we moved to Southern California from Northern California. And I didn't really want to make the move, but I did it because my husband retired early and I thought it was best for his health. And we made the move after I lost my dad. So I had to leave everything that I knew and loved. I had my teaching job for 10 years with the team that I loved. I loved it. And I hated leaving all of that. So when I first came here, my first year was tough. I was adjusting. My husband's health was declining. I couldn't find a teaching job, but it's all because it was meant to be. And so I was stirring inside. Some things were just shifting, and I just felt this weight of like being unsettled. And so I just prayed. I just prayed, and I was relentless with that. And after about a good solid year, and I had always liked to be the person who gives gifts to people, because I have so many friends and family who it seems constantly that are just going through something deep and heavy. And beside praying, which is always my go-to, beside doing that, I always feel helpless. Like, what do I do? So my thing is to just send them a thoughtful gift, just to let them know that I love them, I'm thinking about them, and acknowledge whatever they're going through. So that was my thing already. And so after a year of praying and being in this new space and place, spiritually and physically, and it came to me like, start this gifting business. This is something you love. You're good at it. You're doing it from the heart. You can bless others. You can uplift, encourage, inspire others with this business. So I don't look at it at all like I just sell things. I don't see that. I feel like I put on my heart, and something that may become something much bigger. And it's actually named after my mom. My mom's name was Hope. So, and then Grace is all around. One of my best friends, his name is Grace. My daughter's middle name is Grace. We live on Grace Street. So I put these two things together, and I'm like, you know what? Hope and grace is what I want to give. I just want to be and give hope and grace to others. So that's the story of the business.
I love it. And can you tell those who are watching now, Chulu is coming. She's coming. She's coming. She's coming on this channel.
Hi, Chulu.
Yes, she is all the way from Zimbabwe. Did I say it correctly? Because my dyslexia will kick in anytime it won't. And so we can't wait to have her. And she's just checking us out for now. Hey, Ev, type in what city you're from. And what I want to say is, I know you talk about hope. I know you talk about grace. And Before I forget, tell them if they wanted to find you, where they can go and get that information.
You can go to my website, hopeandgracegifting.com, or follow along on Instagram. I try to be pretty active and engage on my social media and Facebook. Everything is Hope and Grace Gifting.
Hope and Grace Hope and Grace Gifting. Great.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to say is, but before there was Hope and Grace, I know there were some dark times. What did that look like for you before you land into what I call harvest season, purposeful living? What were some of those things that, in thinking about grief, you're like, oh, shoot, I've been through a lot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it started when I was young. I think maybe around 9 or 10. And I feel like between 9 and 10, let's just stick with 10. From 10 until now, there's been constant grief. And most of it is due to drug addiction and alcoholism. It's taken both of my parents. It created havoc when I was a kid. Between 10 and 16, I had to watch my mom be beat up in our home. She was on welfare, single mom, which brought its own challenges. Being in a home with 5 siblings, we're all a year apart. And then shortly after, it became 7 when she had 2 more. Just going through life, growing up, moving away when I was 10 for 3 months. And I was very close to my grandparents because there was so much instability that we were constantly either at home with our mom and her new husband, which everybody hated being there. We were, stuck watching horrible things. So we would try to we found ourselves at different spots. Like some of us would go with our dad for a little bit, and some of us, excuse me, would go with our grandma and grandpa. And at one point, my oldest sister, who was 21 and I was 10, she lived in Sacramento, which was a couple of hours away. She took me to live with her for 3 months. And at the time, it seemed fine. But at 3 months, I got homesick and I came back home. Mm-hmm. But I left my grandpa during that time, healthy and fine. Well, just normal. He was normal to me. When I came back, he had he had throat cancer. So he had something removed he had to use a voice box. Mm-hmm. And so I just remember just like this sadness coming over me, hearing my grandpa, he didn't have his voice anymore. He sounded like a robot. Mm-hmm. And so that was difficult. But yeah, there was a lot of instability and a lot of pain during those years, just watching my mom be abused, and it affected us and it put fear in us. I mean, there were so many days and weeks and years where we would just hide in fear. When something happened, we would shut lights off and hide. It was just a way of our life for so long. And then later, just losing my mom to her addictions, and so early. And now that's inspired me to try to realize some of the dreams she had, but never got to realize. It hurts me. I wish I could know what I know now and take care of her. Mm-hmm. Because now I understand. I was bitter for a long time too, mm-hmm. about her lifestyle. But now looking back and understanding, oh, it's so awful. Yeah. It's so awful knowing that she had to go through all that.
Sometimes one of the hardest things, and my very first anchor in teaching ways to get to a place of restoration with your grief, is the truth anchor. And sitting in that truth that your mom was a drug addict, the truth of losing your grandfather the way he did, the truth of, oh my God, I didn't really want to move, but I wanted to support my husband because it was better. The moving is also a way that we also grieve for moving. I remember crying 4 hours straight moving from Tampa, Florida back to our hometown. Like, I wanted to come and support my husband who wanted his PhD, and this is where the school was going to be at. I was happy and sad, but I cried, and moving is a part of grief. And one of the things that I want to ask you, and sitting in your truth and it being hard, if you would give any advice, what advice would that be to someone who's saying, man, I don't really want to deal with my truth. To face my truth and look in the mirror, that would stink. I may have to look like in the mirror and blame myself or want to blame others. What advice would you give to someone watching right now or watching the replay or watching it on YouTube?
Well, I'm no expert for sure, but I can speak from my experience. And I've always felt like I just deal with it as I go, and I try to deal with it in a healthy as possible way, because I've seen over and over again what not dealing with it properly results in. And it's suffering, lifelong suffering and pain and isolation and addiction or other to anything. Addiction's not always drug or alcohol, but
no,
just self-destruction is horrible. And when I'm grieving right now, and grieving to me, I feel like I have a good handle on it. I just know I have so many friends and family that I love deeply. And so the chances of life being perfect and things not happening, that's not realistic. Things are going to happen. Things are going to go bad, and when my friends or family are hurting, I hurt, I grieve. And, my friends can tell you that they've gone through some deep stuff, and whatever they're going through at the time, it hurts. And that's grieving, that hurts. But what I could say is that, you gotta do something. You have to have some kind of outlet. For me, it's always prayer. My faith is what I stand on, time and time again. That's my go-to. So I am relentless with God. I don't let him leave me. I give it to him. I pray to him. I talk to him. I just feed myself in every way possible. And he carries me through each day.
Can we get amen for the wisdom that Barbara is bringing to the table today? Can we just show her some love with some hearts and amens? But Barbara, I got to play the devil's advocate right now. And I'm looking back at my journey, and I'm looking back at those times where it hurt like hell, like telling the truth that I couldn't explain why our lights were turned off. Telling the truth that we had a master's degree, first generation coming, first generation, we did the work, but yet we were looking like the lives of our parents, especially my parents who migrated here by boat. I was mad at God. I had some real hard issues. Like my faith was tested. Like if I got out the boat, baby, I was sinking.
Yeah.
I wasn't like you where you can say you just won't let God go. You just, and I know other people are out there, because when it comes to grief, and that's why the faith anchor is a part of my teaching. When it comes to grief and faith, what tips can you get there? I'm there no longer. I had to go through my journey and find that he never left me. God never left me. But I know someone's watching and saying, I feel like he don't hear me.
Yeah, and I've dealt with that very recently with my sister. She completely stopped believing, completely. Even said things like, I hate God. I don't believe in him. He's not, just totally opposite of what she was at one time in her faith. And so it hurt me, but I got it. Like, this is how bad her life has become, or how bad things have seemed to become. And how could she believe right now? How could she have that faith? So my advice to her, I try to be understanding and just tell her, that's fine. Tell God that. Share that with him. I don't believe in you right now. I don't feel like I love you. I feel like, to be honest with God. There's something higher than you. My husband always tells me, and this is another story that I'm happy to share too, but he's now a recovering addict. And he always says, in the NA program, they push believing in something higher. And it doesn't have to be God, the God that we believe in, but you have to believe in something greater and bigger than yourself.
Amen.
And so you gotta give that, you gotta surrender that to whatever it is, right? So of course, for me being a believer, that's going to be God. But in the beginning, when you're trying to encourage somebody or advise somebody or counsel somebody, you just make it okay to say, hey, just speak it out. Whoever it's being spoken to, just speak it out. Speak the words, the faith will follow at some point. Just be
Oh, can
consistent
I get
about
a
it.
pow? Pow is saying pearls of wisdom. Pow is saying pearls of wisdom. P.O.W. I gotta train y'all when y'all come into these things. Pow. Can we get a pow for the wisdom Barbara just shared right there? Pow. Wow. Can you say that again if you remember, sis?
Yes, I remember. So I was just saying that when you're talking to somebody whose faith isn't there yet, you just need to encourage them, or hopefully they're encouraged that if they just speak out whatever is true for them at that moment in time, their faith will follow.
Mm.
Because what else can you do? And what do you have to lose, other than speaking out what's true for you in that moment, and releasing it to someone greater than you.
I have to tell you that those dark days, I've heard you talk about AA groups. I heard you talk about your friends, your friend that is your best friend that is online, that's been with you since you were 12. Like
she says correction 11. Okay,
11.
Let's get it straight.
11. She's been with you since she was 11, right? And so what I hear is my other anchor that I teach, there is power in connection. Basically, there is power in community. And what I realize is that grievers, there's a myth out there that you should grieve and be alone. And you shouldn't be.
No.
You have to find community that sees you, hears you, and validate your feelings. I said sees you, hears you, and validate your feelings. Example, I'm going to go to my girl Samantha and I'm going to say, hey, Sam, girl, I just lost my job. This coronavirus just took me out my job. I've been a nurse for 25 years and now they're going to furlough me. Samantha's response is, gotta be tough. The best response she would say is, how can I support you? In seeing that, you give Samantha room just to, I had a safe place to share my heartache. Now, this is what Sam is not supposed to do. Sam, I just lost my job, 25 years. I don't know what I'm going to do. I work all my life with this company. I've missed school activities for my kids. This is an example of what Sam should not say. Sam should not say, trust God. She didn't say she didn't trust God. She's just sharing her emotions. Sam should not say, girl, let me tell you what happened to me 17 years ago when I lost my job then. And no. Just create the space for your friend to be seen, heard, and validated. Because what happens when a griever is trying to share, we spend time trying to compare the hurt. And you should not do that. And so in listening to those examples, and you having your friend since 11, your best friend, and she's been your best friend through, you said move, having children, getting married, ups and downs, that listening ear, what is the quality of your best friend that you can now share with us who are grieving and says, I want a best friend like that? Because she's been with you since you were 11, baby.
I know, it's crazy to think about, but the friends that I have, I know they love me and I love them. And it's evident every time that I'm going through something and I do share, they're just there. They're just there to listen. They're just there to hear me out and encourage however they know how. Not to tell me anything or direct me in what they, necessarily believe or think is right or whatever. But And my most recent, which has been almost 2 years now, the biggest grief of my life was finding out my husband was an addict. After 23 years of being together, I had no clue. And when I found out,
Wait, we can't drop this. Can we send
Mhm.
some hugs? Because she's sitting in her truth right now. Can we type hug, virtual hug, virtual hug, virtual hug? Let her know. Virtual hug. It's hard to sit in your truth, y'all. Y'all know it. And to know, let me backtrack for those who are just joining us. Barbara shared that her parents were addicts, right? Barbara
Mhm.
shared that her parents were addicts. And now she's sharing my husband of 23 years
Mhm.
was an addict and I did not know. Now, before
Yeah.
you say anything else, I got to share this wisdom dropped by a power wisdom dropped by Alex. It says, or making them feel better right away. Hold space for them to grieve authentically. Yes. Anchor down
Yeah.
in that truth. Thank you for the hugs and the hearts, people. Go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go back to like you speaking that truth. Hey, Poppy. Poppy will be joining us as well. Let's sit in that truth. And 23 years you did not know.
Yeah. So, after seeing what drugs did to my family, they took my mom and my dad. They took them away from life. Just seeing all that, I've always hated drugs with a passion. So like, I've never done drugs. I've hated drugs all my life. I did whatever I could to stay away from them. Got married. We did everything backwards. We had our kids, then we got married, but we've been together for now 25 years, but at the time it was 23. And there were always behavioral issues in the relationship. Nothing major, but just little things throughout. And he's a war veteran, so he, had the PTSD, and he had some health related issues, and he's a 100% disabled veteran now. You don't always know it from just looking at him, but there's some things. And so when
Can
we
we stop to say thank you for his service? Thank you to your family, because
thank
you know what
you.
it takes to really serve and be told when
Yeah,
to move, how to move, where to live. You all really put your lives on the line to sacrifice for us in our freedom. We honor your family in this chat.
thank you. So when we made the move out here, it was more for him because he just wanted to be the city that we lived in. There wasn't really much there, and he's retired early, not much to do. So he loved it out here in this Southern California area. And so after my dad passed, I agreed to move. So we made the move out here. And over that first year of being here, there was a lot happening with my husband. His health was declining, just crazy. But I thought it was all health related. I thought it was everything he was telling me. And before you know it, a year later, he's lost 100 pounds. He's not looking like the same man at all. He's not sleeping anymore. His money spending is not right. All these things, somebody from the outside would probably get it right away. Me, I was just so close and so trusting. I didn't see anything until it was just like, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. And so, yeah, I filed for divorce. He just wouldn't come clean, and things were just horrible. Too much to get into here and now, but things were horrible, and it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do was to go file for divorce, but I did. And we were about 6 months into the proceedings when one of my best friends said, because my friends love me, they love him. He's always been a good man and a good provider. Her advice was, why don't you just put this off until he's a healthier state of mind to engage with the divorce, because it was all me.
Can we
He
get
just,
a pow for your friends? Can we get a
yeah,
pow? A pow for your friends. Because you said that. They loved you, so they loved him.
yeah. This, and all my friends, it's true for all my friends. They were so sad. Everybody was so sad. I lost my husband. I was grieving. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that for 23 years, something was happening right under my nose. I didn't know. And it took him. He was no longer the same man physically, in any way. He was just, I lost him. It felt like a death. It really felt like a death. And so I was grieving heavily at that time. And I'm in a new space, no friends, no family. Just, my oldest was home from college for the summer. During that, it was during the summertime. And we had to send our dog away 5 hours away to be cared for. I couldn't do it. I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the biggest grieving periods in my adult life, I feel like. And so I took my friend's advice. I felt so sorry for my husband and what had happened, and so I decided to hold off on the divorce, to just pause everything. And then we ended up reconciling. He truly turned his life over to God. He's never been spiritual, never ever attended church for me. I went alone for 15 years by myself with the kids, and I left his salvation up to him. All that time I just, had to be concerned with my salvation and teaching and raising my kids the way that I felt I needed to. Mm-hmm. And, in the beginning, I felt like his speaking of God and reading the Bible was just kind of a way to draw me back in. Mm-hmm. But I saw that it was real, and I saw all of his efforts. And over time, we reconciled. And everything has changed now. Everything is not perfect for sure, but it worked out.
Can I stop right there? If there's one thing that I want to go into the grave, not 6 feet, but here in Florida, you may not be able to do that in Louisiana and other states, is put that word perfection deep down in the grave, in the pits of hell. There is nothing in this world that is perfect. And so this is why redefining grief is so important, because we are taught that we have to be perfect with the A's. We have to do things. We've been trained as children in a destructive manner, emotionally, that is not serving us and causing us to mask our behavior, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, whether it's overworking, putting in work, not spending time with your family, and it's robbing us of our purposeful living. And that's why on Thursday night, I am doing this master class called Redefining Grief, and in these times, basically, and understanding that you still have purpose in life. And before I forget that, let me add that it's a free master class that you can attend, where I am going to give the business about grief and why we as individuals should embrace grief. And master class. Did I spell it right, Jesus? I hope I did. Yes, I did. And we're going to do the business of really learning the powers of understanding grief. And so I hear your testimony, sis, and I hear restoration. And restoration, you can consider it as the harvest season. You can consider it however you want to consider it. But what does restoration look like for you right now? I hear your marriage has been restored. I hear your emotions have been restored. What are some other areas that when you look back and do a life review, you can only say it was God to help you get through that point, a place of restoration?
Just being able to walk through each day, each time period of grief, and still, hold up my head high and believe. I, of course, as you grow older, you grow wiser, hopefully. As you feed yourself, you become, more fruitful from what you're feeding yourself. I don't know. I just feel like now I can walk with confidence and with trust, even knowing that things are going to continue to happen. Pain is going to continue to come my way. It's a part of my life. It's a part of all of our life.
Amen. Can we get a pow for that in some hearts? Because she's talking grief wisdom right here. because it is a part. The definition of grief is saying it's an internal conflict that you have that is normal. Did y'all hear me? It is normal and natural. It is normal and natural. And we need to give ourselves permission to do it. And so thank you for that pile, pearls of wisdom information there, and reminding me that we got to tell the people that this is normal. Normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have somebody, I think I mentioned earlier that I'm grieving right now, somebody in my family who's just going through a period in life that is just grieving me, and it pains me. So, you know, most days I can walk in it in a healthy way, and I just release the power to God, and I pray about it, and I reach out to this person however I can, through a text or whatever. And then there are days where it just like consumes me, and I'm really grieving, and I just have to ride that day out. I just have to feel that emotion and let it out through tears, or talking to one of my friends, or praying again, as I always do. But there are those days where it just takes over, and it's okay. I have to deal with it. And then the next day I'm a little stronger, because I know I can't stay down in that pit. I can't stay down consumed like that, because then that affects everybody around me. They don't have my attention. They don't have my focus. I can't, everything becomes out of whack. But for a day or for a moment, we have to allow ourselves to grieve. We have to allow ourselves to cry.
Thank you for saying that, pal. Thank you for saying that, pearls of wisdom right there. That piece right there. So many times we say, well, I have to be strong for the kids. I have to be strong for my mama and daddy. I have to be strong for my cousin them. I have to be strong. I have seen women lose the love of their life that they've probably been with since middle or high school, and say they've been in this relationship for 35 years, 25 years, and that person dies, or they get a divorce, and they say, well, I don't have time to cry. I just have to push on. And I always wonder, when they say that, how are they masking that pain?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be yelling at the kids? Is it going to be drugs? Is it going to be crying in the shower by yourself? How is it going to be becoming a workaholic? Because what you don't realize, if you do not deal with the hurt and pain and sitting in your truth, baby, that thing is going to take over you and rob you of purposeful living. And that is the facts that I'll be teaching in that mastermind class. You don't want to miss it. You do not want to miss it. If any of this is triggering to you, and you're like, you know what? I may have some unresolved stuff. Hello, somebody. That I may need to learn just a little bit more. Well, a lot more, because when I teach a course, I want you to leave like, wow, my head hurt. The wisdom was so profound that, like, I gotta come back for more, right? And so it's not a cheap webinar. It's free. And it's free. And when I say it's not cheap, I'm saying I'm putting in work to give the communities, what I call my grief community, the grief crusaders, knowledge about grief, so that they can get to a place of restoration and purposeful living. Before we close out, Barbara, purposeful living looks like what to you now?
Just living each day with my truth, the best way that I know how. So I know I've mentioned several times that, my faith is everything. Mm-hmm. That's what is my guiding light. I try to address all areas of my life, and it's been a journey for the past couple of years. But when I found Patrice, I was like, oh yeah, I've got the faith pillar check, the financial, I've got finally getting that in check. The health pillar. But all these different aspects of our life, just trying to acknowledge them and trying to not perfect them, but just improve on them and make them get them to healthy levels. Our faith, our health, our friendships, our finances, all of these things work together and make for a purposeful life. And you can't ignore one of those areas and expect life to be smooth or healthy. You have to go to each of those groups and do your very best with where you are, with what you have, to improve on them and to make them meaningful for you and your family.
This is good. I had a circle, I had a team, I have my wisdom circle, I have my amazing husband, Dr. Jameson Mercier. You want to watch the replay from last night. It was good. It was good.
It was good. I watched it.
Good. And if Barbara has done anything to change your life right now in listening to her testimony, can we give her a shout out of words of affirmations? Send them to my DM. I will text them to her. I will send them to her, because in telling her truth, she literally is helping someone else get a breakthrough, and then have the courage to stand up and tell their truth, to help the cycle of helping everybody else. Say, hey, this world ain't perfect, y'all. This life is not perfect, but the requirement of living it is. And so I am going to open up the last 10 minutes. If you have any questions for Barbara at this time, this would be the great time to put it in. Don't put a dissertation of questions, y'all. Sometimes my dyslexia doesn't allow me to read all the words. Okay? So make the questions real simple, to the point, so we can ask it and we can get to the next person. But please do not forget, inbox me what you thought about today's testimonial. If you just coming in, let me give you a snap bit. Okay. She's been with her best friend since they were 11, right? Her parents were drug addicts. She lost them, meaning death, because of their addiction. She struggled, and I know there's more to this, deeper than this, but the time frame. She struggled, right? Let's fast forward. She moved to California. She's with her husband of 23 years. And she's 25 years now, but 23 years, she found out he was an addict, and she didn't know. Hey, sis, tell us what state you're coming from. And she finds out he's an addict. He's a drug addict. The thing that she hates and is passionate about, her husband is now. Hello, somebody, y'all. Y'all don't understand. That stuff will come back and eat you if you don't learn how to deal with it. And so now the stuff that robbed her of her childhood, her husband now has, and she filed for the divorce. And then the support of her friends say, nah, wait till he get healthy. Don't run away too much. I hope I'm saying the story right. Don't run away too quick. And he never went to church. And in the last 2 years, he did is it a 180 or a 380?
It's a 180.
He did a 180 with his life. And they're a praying family now. Can you say testify? Can you say testify? Now that is a testimony. That is a testimony. Type what city you're from. That is a testimony. And so please, yes, 180, 180, 180, 180, 180, 180. Tell us what you've learned from her testimony. Send her DMs, because I need her to put that in her brag binder. That we learn. Sometimes we don't celebrate where we come from because we don't understand the depth of where we come from, because we forget. But your testimony is helping. This is a blessing. Herlinda is saying, this is a blessing. God is good from listening to her testimony. She probably didn't believe that her testimony would be good when she was going through it. But she had some friends, she had some family members who were literally hooking her up with words of wisdom to help her through. I'm looking through the chats. Is there any questions? Is there any questions? Before I have to let my P2P sister go. And so I'm going to give you the opportunity right now to say your final say. If you were to leave us with pow, just a pow, It could be a word. It could be a statement. It can't be no dissertation because of time right now. But what would that be?
I would just let everybody know that life happens. Life's going to continue to happen. We all grieve at some point in some way, and we all grieve differently, and it's all okay. And there are tools, and I think one thing to keep in mind whenever something does come up and causes you grief is that you have a lot more power than you might believe or might know. You have power. You have power to talk to someone, talk to a friend, write it in a journal, cry, release it that way, talk to God, talk to something if you're not there with God yet. You have power through grieving, and you have tools that can help, but grieving is a part of life. And the better that we can deal with it, the better that we can come out of it.
Can we get a pal? I need to learn how to do my hearts, even though I'm the host. I need to learn how to. Let me put in my pal for that one. Say that one again, Barbara.
You keep having me repeat stuff. I forget what I'm saying. Can somebody remind me what I said?
Okay, y'all gonna have to watch the replay because sometimes when God give you the wisdom, it's so powerful we just can't remember, y'all. We just can't remember. But in sharing your testimony of your journey, your grief journey, from coming from a place of despair to a place of restoration, and it's a growth. You're still becoming, in every season, in every year, in all these things. We just get better.
We do.
We do get better, but it starts with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You were truthful about your parents' drug addiction. You were truthful that you were shocked that your husband of 23 years became an addict. You were truthful about your divorce. And so now you can come to a place of restoration because you sat in your truth, no matter how dark and uncomfortable it felt. And so for this, sis, I honor you. I love you unconditionally like Christ loves you. And I'm just so grateful. This is why I do what I do. And this is why I open up this space to show that you can get to a place, or individuals can get to a place of restoration no matter their grief journey.
Mm-hmm.
No matter their grief journey. And now you will be another example and testimony of someone that made it through. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And I love you too. And one thing that I thought of when you were speaking right now is that I'm not the type to let everybody know my business as I'm going through it. I don't think most people are. There are some people like that.
Uh-huh.
But I've always had an openness and a willingness to share whatever I've gone through, because I know that constantly there's somebody going through something at some point. And I've always had this willingness to share, and I can't care if somebody judges that as, oh, she's putting all her business out there, or God, that's personal, that's too personal. I can't care about that. If I know it's going to serve even just one person, I have a duty and a responsibility to share it, because then I can open myself up to somebody who might need a friend, even if we've never met. And it happened when I gave my testimony about my husband on Facebook, because I felt like that's where I could reach the most people. Mm-hmm. I had a half dozen instant direct messages from people that I'm very close with, family members. I had no clue they were also going through something. It opens the door for somebody else to find a better way of dealing with their problem at the time.
And I will say this. One of the things that I say is God has to release you to share it. If he didn't release you to share it and you're not healed from it, it's not going to come out. Tell us where you're from. It's not going to come from a place of healing, And you know what? There's some individuals God released them to share before, before they got to the resolution part. But for me
Mm-hmm.
and my journey, and there is some things you will never share
Mm-hmm.
because you weren't released to share it. It isn't your ministry. That's not what he told you to do. There's some things in my past I may never share. And I have come to a place of restoration in it. So find the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Silence the noise in your head, in your heart, so you can hear God's whisper. So that you can hear God's whisper and know when it's time to go from pain to testimony. That's what it's
Mm-hmm.
about. And
Yeah.
before we close, let people know about your business. Let them know where they can find you, Barbara, because we're going to shut down in like 4 minutes. And I want to give you
Yeah.
the final say. I love you. Thank you.
Aw.
And you rock, baby. You rock. You are officially a grief crusader.
Woo, woo. Thank you, Herdyne. My business is Hope and Grace Gifting, and I'm all over. I'm everywhere. Facebook, here on Instagram, and my website. It's all hopeandgracegifting.com, and it's a online gift shop. So I have individual gift items, but I also create custom gift boxes. So it's just a way to uplift and encourage and acknowledge others during all seasons of life. And it's something I'm super passionate about and love doing. It's just 8 months or so new. So we'll see where God takes it. But yes, I would love anybody to just follow along on social media or visit my website, stay connected.
Let's give her some love,
Yeah.
y'all. Follow her on social media. It's so important, y'all, especially to us as new business owners. When someone says follow them and engage. Like, actually, and I found out you got to make a comment of 3 words or more. 3 words or more for the algorithm to move up and other people find them. If Barbara has blessed you today, that's how you can pay her back. Follow her, tell her comment, and help the algorithm find her because somebody needs her services. 2 more minutes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that algorithm. That algorithm is messing me up.
So from test to testimony, yes, yes, from pain to testimony. All of these pals. Barbara, thank you. You know I'm gonna call you right after this. You wanna we getting hearts. Everybody's showing hearts right now. Just showing
Thank
her
you.
hearts. And we thank you for taking the time out to sit in your truth, no matter how hard it can be.